Friends, Champagne Friday again. And I'm not in an ordinary place, as you can see. I'm sitting in one of the most beautiful spots in Champagne and one of the most historic. And I'm sitting here with one of my oldest friends in Champagne. We haven't met for a long time, as much as we wanted, because he's jumping from one spot to the other and I'm traveling around a little bit too much. But it's Stephen Leroux, and we just having a fantastic lunch, drinking some of the most gorgeous Charles Heidsieck bottles there was ever made. For me, actually, the one we're having right now, I have a small preference for the 79 and the 85 Champagne Charlie, when everything is coming into perfection. But when it comes to the vintage wine, the year one, 89. Rather surprising for that vintage, because it's a good but not one of the greatest. But in year one, it is absolute perfection. And what I found when I tasted this one was very much the obvious things that you normally find in Champagne. We can go on forever and speak about the toastiness and the seductive mid-palate and things like that. But we got two other things. One was the honeysuckle rose, which was almost like the perfume, and it was like eating it, so not only the nose. The second part was that I got some almost ashes as a hint. I sometimes find in a great cornas from club or something like that. But you found something else, and I'm going to speak about that very soon, connected to his Scottish origins. And speaking about Scotland, England, United States, history, Stephen, where are we?
Thank you, Richard, mentioning my origins. Yes, I am half Scottish by my mother. I was born in Glasgow 57 and odd years ago, but having lived in Champagne since 1967. So I am actually deeply enrooted in the Champagne region. My great-grandfather was a négociant in the Aube, and he basically helped to organize the revolution of the farmers at Bar-sur-Aube, so about 130 years ago. And yeah, you don't know everything about me, Richard. We've known each other for 27 years, but I still have a few secrets. Yeah. And my family-in-law are the Pierre Gimonet Champagne family. So I'm quite connected in the Champagne region, and I've been working in the Champagne industry for 27 years now. So, but I do have my Scottish origins, and I'm quite proud of them. It's quite emotional. And as with your friends today visiting us, we decided to put a Jeroboam of 89, which is one of the iconic Charles Heidsieck champagnes produced by the famous Daniel Thibault many years ago. He had an inspiration that 89 would be in a big bottle size, Jeroboam, so double magnum. He had the vision that this wine would last forever. And here we are in 2023, 34 years after, still sucking around the wine, drop by drop. Thank God we still have a few drops. And Richard, you mentioned honeysuckle from a very specific Swedish place, which you know well. And you were talking about ashes. And funnily, we were looking at each other in the eyes about an hour after that bottle was open. And I was feeling a little bit burnt peat, which comes back to my Scottish origin in the Hebrides, the Isle of Lewis. I remember my great uncles digging with a shovel, digging the earth to get some peat to burn in the fire, and then we would eventually roast the salmon. The peat, of course, it would have been raining all day. That was Scotland, so the peat was kind of a little bit wet. You had to dry the peat itself, and then when the peat was dry, you could actually burn it. And I have this kind of whiskey-ish burnt peat, and that connects with what you were saying, the ashes. This is a very, very emotional glass of champagne for me. It's Charles Heidsieck, and it's so nice to share it with you, my friend.
Fantastic to have it. It's
Cheers.
Amazing.
Cheers.
Cheers. Wine that brings out so many
Yeah,
memories.
yeah.
So it's not strange. It's quite natural that you are speaking about childhood memories. But the notes that we speak about are similar. It's just what we have been, what's happening in our lives for a while, and that part is that happened in Sweden, that happened in Scotland, it can happen in Champagne. For me, it happens very often. Today, earlier on, when I had a tasting of old Discords, a little bit later, a little bit older, of the Brut Reserve, the Charles Heidsieck, I got, it tastes like the 81 vintage did in 2003 on a beach in the sunset. Wow. of Puerto Rico. So it could be things like that. And it just pops up. Memory and smell are so closely connected. So it's part of it is actually physiological, but there are too many people who forget about that. And I love when we're doing what we did around the table with this Champagne VIP Champagne Club group, is that we are discussing and people are really bringing out the personal perspective and memories from how they see or look upon a champagne. And we agree on that champagne should be served in Magnum, that's the perfect bottle size, but actually it goes even slower, and if you have certain vintages and you get it on the peak, the refinement of the best Eurobombs is even higher.
No, I agree. We don't have produced Jeroboams in every year at Charles Heidsieck. No. Some vintages we produce bottles only, sadly. Yeah. Most vintages we have produced bottles and magnums, and maybe once in a decade we produce some Jeroboams. So this is a bit of a, yes, it's one of the remains of the days, because we don't have many left in the Charles Heidsieck cellars, but I think this one is proving right. And I like what you said about the memory and the emotion. I think memory is something very different, particularly when it comes to tasting. Of course, you have your physical senses, your sort of intellect. Okay, what does that taste? What does that taste like? But also, what does that remind me? And I think the emotion and memory helps you to basically put something on a wine. And you've done that for so many hundreds of champagne, if not thousands. I mean, we know thousands. And I guess it's not your ability, Richard, to taste champagne is not just about putting words as a descriptor, but probably much more about the emotions and the souvenirs which are connected with that tasting experience.
Absolutely right.
It's well, we know each other since 27 years. You impressed me from day one.
And it was blind tasting.
It was a blind tasting. It wasn't very easy, but you went through it, my friend. You got 8 wines out of 10 in those days, and you were not experienced as you are today. So, hats off.
Same to you. I'm very happy to see you in this beautiful place. You've been in a couple of other houses, and you always had this enormous pride for each house that you've been represented, and you only pick the ones that you love. And now you're here, and I hope this will be your last and where you're staying, because you're so Charles Heidsieck yourself. So, my friends, cheers for Stephen, cheers for Charles Heidsieck.
Richard, dear friend.
Cheers for Champagne Fridays.
Lovely to be with you. Bye-bye.